Okay, so it's time to change a power steering hose on this Jeep XJ. It's the high pressure line that's been leaking for a while, but I've just been topping it off. It was a small leak, but there's a lot of fluid down there. And then there's a good amount of fluid dripping under the car. So let's get started. First thing I'm doing is I'm gonna remove this air box. So I've got this intake hose off. I've got this breather hose off. I've got to get all the latches off so I can get the top off and get the filter element out. And then I believe there's a couple screws or bolts along the bottom of the box, so we can remove that and have total access down to where these lines connect. So I've got the top off, got the filter element out. You see I brought home a lot of desert sand with me. So looks like there's a bullet back here and two in the front. Then I'll take this out and just completely hose it out, get it clean. There's no need for all this dirt to be stirring around in there, potentially getting caught in my filter. So it'd be good to clean this thing out. I'm gonna go grab some sockets. This back one's pretty easy. The front ones are really tight, so I'm gonna spray them. I'm gonna bust something off. Make this take 10 times as long as it should. So I've already started cleaning up. The inner fenders were a mess. I've already cleaned up this section here. Still lots of grease in here. And then down around like where the motor mounts are, you can see our high pressure hose is just caked with grease. There's grease everywhere. So I'm gonna do a little cleanup and then we can work on removing these hoses. All right, this thing's kind of low since it's been leaking, but now's the time to get more of the fluid out. So we've got our garage specific turkey baster. That didn't work so good. There we got a full pull. We're gonna refill with some fresh power steering fluid, so this will go to the recycler. But you get the idea. We're going to get as much of this out as we can so that when I remove the hoses, the level's not at a point where it's going to drip out. So that's out. Got a little drip of fluid. Try and catch that. As you can see right in here, I've got this hose clamp slid down. This is the return line, the low pressure line. But it's not coming off easily, so I'm going to try and get my hose pick tool in there to loosen it up. All right, I'm going to give it a couple good pulls and then we'll see if it comes off. If not, I'm going to just use a razor blade and just cut a little slice straight down so I can pull it off. So I can see part of an O-ring in here. And pick it out of there if I can. There, got it out. So here's the old O-ring. It's not ripped or torn, but I mean it still could have been leaking. So it's good to get the old O-ring out if you see it in there. So I've got the new high pressure line just kind of hand threaded in. And loose on the top, but it's going to come around and thread, you know, kind of goes around the pump and then it will thread in here on the top. I'm going to try and get this into position on the bottom so that my return line fits in there, because these they kind of straddle each other. It's really awkward, especially with this radiator hose in place. And then I'll work to tighten that one down before I actually work on getting the return line in. So I just want to make sure that I've got it in the right position. I actually may go back and look at some of the earlier video I shot, and then we'll snug that up. I've threaded it in nice by hand, so I make sure I didn't cross thread anything. I've got my O-rings in place. You can see on this top one I've got that green O-ring ready to go. Same thing on in place down here. Don't forget to use your new O-rings. Probably have a fairly significant leak right away, so take your time. So this top high pressure line going into the pump is 16 millimeters. Bottom ones are 18 millimeters. I actually had to go buy an 18 millimeter wrench, so check your tool set. All right, so I'm gonna hook up the high pressure line first. As mentioned before, I've not removed my lower radiator hose, so it's gonna be a little bit of a battle, but I think we'll be just fine. Just go a little at a time. And then after this one's in, then we'll work on the return line. All right, that is snug. Maybe just go a little more. Okay, so that, actually I may move that a little bit so we're not rubbing this hose onto the body. So let's adjust that. Okay, so I just loosened the nut just a little bit, moved our position so that we've got some gap in between the hose and the body so it doesn't rub. And that should be good now. Now we can work on the return line. So our return line, got our green O-ring in there, and then you can see down here at the pump, it's just a little squeeze hose clamp. This is not under the same pressure as the other line, so now I just need to get this into position, and then we'll start to thread it in. All right, so we're working on this other nut now, and it can be done without removing the radiator hose. I'm not sure that's the smartest way to do it. It's really the crows are out to spoil my video. Anyways, we'll check back in a minute when we're nearly snugged up here. Okay, so you can see, got our top high pressure line, drops down, goes to the center or closer to the center. And then we've got our low pressure line, which wraps over top of it, comes up and attaches the pump just with a hose clamp. And we're going to toss some new power steering fluid into the pump, just top it off, and then we're going to work on getting our air box back in for the air filter. I did snap off the front two bolts, so I'm going to try and drill those out. That didn't go according to plan, but got our new hoses in. These should last a long time. These are Gates. I'll put the part numbers in the description, and I hope this was helpful. My videos are more to share the level of effort and tools needed, and hopefully give you enough confidence to go tackle this on your own. We'll check the level, and then we'll top that off as we continue to kind of work our steering from lock to lock. It's going to moan a lot at first because there's going to be air in the line, but we'll work all that out and get this system completely back on track.